gonna. Well, no, they sure are. You know, you're looking at, say, we're live. You're looking at like Jacksepticeye and like people who have huge followings, right?
Right, but I'm saying the people who are left are not the bulk of YouTube's content.
No,
The
the people
bulk
who
of
are
the
left
content
are
is
the celebrities from other
yeah,
industries who are
right.
getting right. And so what you're getting is once again YouTube is ignoring, um, humiliating the enormous group of people that make the platform strong, and
Yeah.
instead trying once again to be the platform that will bring in old media, will bring in celebrities created on the television channels,
Well,
etc. Right?
and with their new YouTube live TV shit,
We're live, by the way.
they're- I know.
Okay.
They're trying to become a competitor for Netflix, Hulu,
Yeah.
and all of the various Disney Plus and such all
Yeah.
streaming platforms,
Yeah.
but they're not recognizing that when we go to YouTube, we want to go down the rabbit hole of mimic octopi, of
Well,
finding that adorable 20-minute
yeah.
long independent thing that has been created that we'll fall in love with.
Yeah.
We're looking for independent content and dancing cockatoos.
Yeah. Well, and YouTube gets way more traffic than
Right.
any of the other platforms, more than Netflix,
Yeah.
more than Twitch, more than traditional broadcast television, right? And so it seems really weird to turn your back on what is essentially what has made you the most powerful, most successful content video platform on the planet. So anyway,
Yeah.
it was like, even, like, I don't normally kind of care about this thing, right? And even me, I was like, oh, really? Like, now I'm going to be having to post comments and people won't know that it's really me, and so people are going to be able to impersonate me in the comments, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just a, I don't, why would they do this? Oh man.
It
Anyway, hey everybody,
Hi.
welcome to Astronomy Cast. I'm going to say
It's a
hi to a
very
bunch of
grouchy
people.
Friday. It's a very grouchy Friday.
Hi to Andy Cowley, Arnold Post, Beth Johnson, Bill Sugden, Bort Klankar, Carolyn B., Chai, Latte, Nebula, Christopher Senti, DPI 209, Dusty Reichwin, Frank Tippin, George Lancaster, Gordon Dewis, Graham W., Guido Bibra, Harry M., J Star, Janelle Duncan, John Suffield, Quad Libet, Larry Beckham, Lars Ray Yepsen, Linda Sadiq, Nancy Graziano, Nichols of the Yard, Paranor, Sargusi, Side MT, Therian, Wayne Johnson, and Zap Van Zap Van. Hey everybody. Uh, Brooke Mulligata, Dustin King. Did I say Andy Cowley? If not, I'm going to say it again. Henrik Bo Anderson, Roman Geber. Say hi to me. Come on.
Give him the knowledge that you love him.
Oh, us. Literally, just give me a way to say your name. It's not about the love, it's about me being able to say your name.
It's true.
To continue to mispronounce names with my hilarious Canadian accent. And hi, Twitch. Oh, we need to follow. Are you following the Twitch chat? Is there a place? Is this going out on
Uh,
CosmoQuest? Is there an Astronomy
yeah, it's
Cast?
going on CosmoQuest's Twitch, and yeah, I can follow that. Let
Yeah,
me
okay.
pop that chat out.
Um, Nancy or anybody, Susie, could you put the Twitch chat, pop out chat, as a link in the YouTube chat, please?
I got it. Actually, no, that's the behind the scenes. Someone else needs to do it.
That's what I
Sorry.
mean. Yeah, someone has to put it into the YouTube chat, and then I'll be able to grab it. Anyway, if you're wondering what it is that you are Gordon Dewis says I don't have an accent. Yeah, right? Lava. Anyway, uh, if you're wondering what it is that you have stumbled into, this is going to be an episode of Astronomy Cast. Today we are just gonna we're gonna have to go back and take back like an entire episode, which is gonna be so much fun. Which is great. I love this. Turns out things are not
We
as
know nothing.
simple. Yeah,
We know nothing. It's
yeah.
just that simple.
Turns out everything is not as simple as we thought, and which is wonderful.
And not.
When is Canada going to move to green energy? Oh, well, it depends. Here on the West Coast, John Richard asks, when are we going to move to green? It's an important day, right? It's Climate March Day. we have already moved to green energy on parts of Canada. Like here on the West Coast, it's all hydroelectric. So we don't do, all of my energy is renewable. But for huge chunks of Canada, it is oil and gas, natural gas plants, things like that. It's terrible. So, but I have an electric car, so I'm halfway there.
I have 4 bicycles.
Yeah, perfect. And I'm actually other people I've been taking people on test drives in my electric car, and they've been buying electric cars too. So it's been kind of fun. Because anybody like like if you're not sure electric cars are great, just like go for a test drive in one, and then your mind will be blown, and you will buy one. You'll want one. They're so great.
I maintain this is how I'm going to someday die is on an electric car somehow, because
They're so quiet.
I'm always out biking, walking.
Yeah.
I'm not in the car, and they're so silent. It is awesome and horrifying simultaneously.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. Someone gave the pop-up chat. That's perfect. I'm going to put this up. So now I've got another thing to watch.
So many online identities.
Have I mentioned these at one point, didn't I? I should share my list at some point. At least the list of the list. So I have a list of about 80 different places that I have to watch for communications and comments from people.
We are slowly creeping towards your desire to stream on all the platforms.
Yeah.
We're just doing it.
Susie Murph's shopping for a plug-in hybrid. Don't get a plug-in hybrid, Susie. Get a straight-up electric car. Get a used Leaf. You could buy one for $5,000 in where you come from. 2011 Nissan Leaf. Just cheap, and plug it in, and you won't have to go to gas stations anymore. Oh, we need names on the bottom third. Well, they're not on this one. They're on this one? No, they're not. I mean, I can give Pamela a lower third. There she is. There's me.
I'm a girl, he's a boy. If you can't get our names straight, we have a problem.
Yeah. Well,
I should put my hair down so our genders make more sense. Not that I don't already have 5 times, 10 times, 1,000 times more hair.
1,000 times more hair, yeah. All right. So we're going to do an episode of Astronomy Cast, and then we will stick around and we will answer your questions about space and or astronomy or the climate or electric cars. Okay. Let me know when you're ready.
There's Audacity. I don't trust it. I'm going to close and reopen Audacity because I don't trust it.
Yeah, that's probably best.
Okay, we are ready to go.
I pressed record. I'm not even going to wait.
I have now pressed record.
Okay.
Fine.
Right.
Be that way.
All right, here we go. Astronomy Cast, episode 539. Why don't we know the age of Saturn's rings? Welcome to Astronomy Cast, our weekly facts-based journey through the cosmos, where we help you understand not only what we know, but how we know what we know. I'm Fraser, Cain, publisher of Universe Today, and with me, as always, Dr. Pamela Gay, a senior scientist for the Planetary Science Institute and the director of CosmoQuest. Hey, Pamela, how you doing?
I'm doing well, although I kind of think that today's tagline should be more like how we know what we don't know about the universe. Because today's topic is all about how we totally don't
know anything for certain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so before we get into that, I want to just quickly give a shout out to a couple of interesting upcoming interviews that I'm going to be having over on my channel on Open Space. So on Monday, I've got Dr. David Kipping from the Cool Worlds Lab at Columbia. We're going to be talking about exomoons and his idea to turn the entire planet into a telescope. Next Friday, 2 hours before Astronomy Cast, I'm going to be interviewing Robert Zubrin live, writer of The Case for Mars. And then the Monday after that, I'm going to be interviewing Sean Carroll for talking about quantum mechanics. So I got 3 really fascinating interviews coming up over the course of like a week. So stay tuned.
And I also have things to plug this week. So no big deal. International Observe the Moon Night is coming up. It is that first awesome Saturday in October, and I'm going to be at the Flandau Center in Tucson, Arizona, putting on a live presentation. You can check all of this out over on their website. Look for their International Observe the Moon Night event and go. Be there with me. I'll live stream if I can, but really, I'm there for the live human beings. And if all the content we're already producing isn't enough for you, if Astronomy Cast, The Guide to Space, Open Science, Weekly Space Hangout is not enough, well, we have more. You can check out the Daily Space Podcast, which is our new podcast that brings you a quick rundown of all that is new in space and astronomy. We are in all your favorite podcast directories. Check out the Daily Space. And if you'd rather read it than look at it, well, we have everything over on dailyspace.org, and we link out a lot to longer reads over on Universe Today.
Wonderful. How old are Saturn's rings? They could be brand new, or they could be as ancient as the solar system itself. Planetary scientists thought they knew the answer thanks to new data from Cassini, but new ideas are calling even that into question. Pamela, this is an episode, I mean, I don't know if it's like cut and dry, but this is an episode where we are probably going to have to reevaluate an episode that we had a couple of, maybe about a year ago or so, where we were quite excited about new data coming from Cassini that now we know that Saturn's rings are young and might not last long. And now we learned this week that in fact they could be old. How do we know anything ever at all anymore?
So I think this episode might end up being the beginning of a new series on those things that we regularly get press releases about, that we keep thinking we now finally understand, and we keep thinking wrong because we don't actually understand anything.
Jon Snow.
Yeah. I think it's safe to say with Saturn's rings, we know they are there.
Can confirm.
We can confirm they exist.
Yeah.
We can tell you that they are made up of chunks of ice and snow and debris that ranges in size from dust to ranch-style house in size, semi-truck in size. But how they got there and how long they've been there is basically a matter of massive debate with multiple teams looking at the same data coming from the same spacecraft and putting out press release triggering paper after press release triggering paper, causing all sorts of really well written, we understand it now papers to be written.
All right, so let's set the scene here, right? Let's go back like maybe 4 years or so, and and in fact, people probably even they can go back to some old episode of Astronomy Cast. I'm sure someone's going to dig it up, and probably the conversation went something like this: "Hey Pamela, how old are Saturn's rings?" And the answer was, "We don't know. They might be old and they might be new." So let's pretend, let's go back to the 4 years ago. And if I had asked you that question, what would you have said?
Well, so 4 years ago, I would have said they were young. 8 years ago, I would have said they were old. A few months ago, I would have said they were young.
Yeah.
Yesterday, I would have said, well, maybe they're old. And the answer is really, let's just look at all the data side by side and agree to disagree.
All right. So why did we used to be confused? Like I said, let's start this. Let's unravel the history of our thinking about the age of Saturn's rings. So 4 years ago, before Cassini took its deep dive, if you asked a planetary scientist studying Saturn how old, what would be their explanation for why we don't really know the age of Saturn's rings?
Well, I think a lot of planetary scientists would have wanted to claim one side or the other of the
Right.
debate.
Yeah, they would have gone one way or the other.
Yeah. And so you would have had one school of thought that was, well, you can't have old rings because over time they're going to hit each other, their orbits are going to decay, and the rings are just going to basically fall apart and go away. And it's not possible to have ancient rings that had enough mass to leave behind what we see today. So people would have argued young. But then you would have also seen people who are like, wait, hold on. But if you take a massive moon and you shatter it out and you look to see how long it takes to relax out into the organized structure we see today, the amount of time that it takes to get the rings in place makes them ancient. So on one hand, you have one group of people who are just like dynamically they must be young. You have
Right.
another group of people who are like dynamically they must be old. And then comes the shiny people.
Right.
And these are the people who are looking at the rings and saying, well, we need to study their color. And if the rings are pristine white, which we think they are, then they must be young.
Right, because otherwise they'd be covered with dust.
Exactly. And now we have a paper that is arguing that.
Well, hold on. You're going right to the conclusion.
Sorry.
There was one other piece of news that came out about this time last year.
The moons.
With Cassini, the final deep dive that Cassini did into the inner rings, it was able to see the width of the rings and make an estimate on how quickly the rings are probably disappearing. And
right.
we got young. We get very young, that the rings are only a couple of 100 million years old at the most, and they are rapidly falling into Saturn and disappearing, and they're only going to be here for another 50 million years or so.
And another argument that also came out from looking at data from Cassini is that when you look at the orbits of the innermost big moons of Saturn's rings, these orbits should be migrating over time as they're getting gravitationally affected by the tides of Saturn and the effects of all of these rings. But if they were moving around, then we wouldn't have the rings that we see. And so the rings must be young because otherwise the moons wouldn't be able to be there.
Right.
So many arguments.
And then the one that you were going at with the moons replenishing.
Right. And so then you also have the argument that because the moons are shiny white, because the moons like Enceladus are blowing material out there, there's two arguments for replenishing. I'm doing the older argument first. In order to have the moons and the rings and everything shiny white created at the same time, which can actually be done in a model, you can explain everything in one model, you end up with rings and moons that are only 10 to 100 million years old. But wait, there's more. You can also argue that because you have moons like Enceladus that are just like, I shall blast everything with snow, all of this material that's getting ejected can make things look shiny and white. And there are dynamical conveyor belts where all of these different motions are moving material through the rings so that, yes, there's material falling on Saturn, but that material falling on Saturn is material that should have fallen on the ring material, making it darker. And since that material is not falling on the ring material and it is not making it darker, then the rings must be old.
Right. And I'm going to completely... totally side tangent here. Two things very quickly. One is, it turns out there was a gigantic asteroid that smashed up about 350 million years ago and was the cause, out in the asteroid belt, and was the cause for one of the Earth's ice ages. But 1/3 of the meteorites that still hit the Earth now came from that impact. So if you like just measure all the asteroids hitting, all the meteorites hitting the Earth, a third of them. So this stuff gets around.
Oh yeah.
But the other piece of news, and I think this came from actually the same conference, this European conference, was that Enceladus now looks like it is snow blowing onto the other moons of the Saturnian system, and I guess as you said,
Yes.
throwing
These are the
this
outermost moons. But
right,
yeah.
right, that it is actually that Enceladus is helping make all of the other moons very reflective, very icy and reflective, because in fact it's just snow blowing them with its cryovolcanoes, which is this is just like brand new news.
Yeah.
It came out like just 2 days ago, so I thought I would just throw it into Astronomy Cast. It's kind of tangentially related to what we're talking about. All right, so now everyone is completely confused. Nobody knows, new or old, and now like last week we've got the next piece of compelling evidence.
And this is that evidence that it looks like you can dynamically say, if you have a massive event that occurred roughly 4 billion years ago, which is the same period in time that's something hit Jupiter so hard it ended up with a fluffy core. And yes, the word fluffy was used in the paper. It is the same period of time that the moon was getting hit with all of the impactors that created the basins that allow us to now see what you view as either the old man in the moon, the rabbit in the moon, or whatever
Right,
else, all
right.
those
The
dark.
late heavy bombardment.
And so during this late heavy bombardment, we know that the collisions got real. And so the idea that at the same period in our solar system's history, something happened that put so much material in the outer area around Saturn that these rings and moonlets could coalesce out of that, whatever it was, is consistent with the dynamics of our solar system. But when you go to instead say that the rings are only 10 million, 100 million years old. Wikipedia says 101 million years.
Yeah,
Very
but
accurate.
I think they're basing that on the press releases that came out last year saying that they were young, and now it could be old again.
And the thing about having a young set of Saturn's rings is, as was pointed out on an article on the SETI Institute website, this would have placed that incident in the age of the dinosaurs. So dinosaurs that happened to be observing Saturn, because we all knew the dinosaurs had amazing astronomical skills.
Yeah, they loved Saturn.
They would have been able to see the formation of these rings. And we know, because we no longer have dinosaurs, that there was still large stuff hanging around waiting to collide with worlds in our solar system. But the probabilities of this kind of a massive impact happening appear to have been much higher at the 4 billion-ish year old age.
When there was lots more debris in the solar system.
So we have a whole lot of conflicting information. We have no clear answers. And this is why scientists love their jobs.
Yeah.
Because we don't always know the answers. And sometimes we're not the ones trying to find the answers, and we get to watch other people struggle.
Right.
And so I'm really enjoying watching all of the Saturn people duke it out, trying to figure out the age of Saturn's rings. They're not literally duking it out. That has happened in the past. We're a little bit more civilized today.
Yeah.
But there's so many different lines of evidence. And the question is, how do you put it all together using all the data we have in one paper? And so what we're seeing right now is a lot of work that, because programs have to make assumptions, because computer software takes a long time to run, because we don't always understand everything, people are not cherry picking, but they're making choices on, I'm going to incorporate this data and see what the outcome is. Or I'm going to use this data and this data, or I'm going to make these assumptions in my dynamical models. We don't yet have one model that cleanly puts together in a three-dimensional framework the dust motions, the tidal forces. We don't even know how long it takes Saturn to
Yeah.
rotate. That puts together the orbits of the moons, the resonances over time, the influx of material that continues to come in, we don't know just how much mass Enceladus is pushing out through its geysers. We can make estimates, but how long has it been doing that? How is it not hollow with the
Yeah.
amount of stuff it's spewing out?
Well, so I think this kind of gets to the heart of it, right? Which is that the whole point of this is that we're watching the science get figured out in real time. And for many of the various scientific controversies, what is an infection? Why does food go bad? Why do we have such variations of life here on Earth? How does the sun work? Like, there are these questions that for the longest time people didn't know the answers to these. And then they figured it out through the scientific method. And here we are on the other side of that with our cell phones and televisions and lasers and enjoying this discovery that happened in this process. And for a lot of people, I think they find this frustrating, like they're like, there's dark matter and we don't know what it is, and we don't know if Saturn's rings are young or old. And so I would love to hear from your perspective, especially as someone who is like sat on some of the planning committees. Like, I think about this process where we've got all these questions, new questions. We've argued, we've got the data from Cassini, we've got all these questions. The next step is to try to really zone in on what are the specific things that we need to answer next. So how would that work? How would people figure out how to get to the bottom of this question?
Well, so with Saturn's rings, I really think that it's going to take getting all the people together, and as has been done with other questions, not as often as it should have been, but as has been done in the past, get everyone together in one place. Quite often it's in Colorado in a mountain resort. Sit them down and say, let's talk through this. Let's figure out how we put together a model that synthesizes all of these ideas. And the data that we're using is crazy in its diversity. The way that they were able to measure the mass of Saturn and its rings is by looking at the delays in radio signals that came from the interactions between the radio signals and the gravity of Saturn and its rings. That's wild.
Yeah.
And so we have all this diversity of data in everything from gravity data to light-based data to grabbing particles out of space and sampling what those particles are. And we need to have all these different experts who may not usually talk to one another sit down and talk to one another.
Yeah.
And this is hard. And how do you write the grant that pays for all of the people to do this and get everyone to commit and recognize that no one is probably going to get an award for whatever result comes out of this. So you're just going to have to suck it up and share the credit. So much ego goes into science that sometimes that gets in the way. So much money isn't going into science that lack of funds get in the way.
Right.
And so we need to look past these problems and get everyone together.
But I mean, like, I imagine this process, right, where you've got all of these different conflicting papers that are proposing different ideas, and you're looking for what are the sort of core pieces of data, and what are the unknowns that the foundations that they're basing this on, and then to then turn around and say, okay, if we're going to send a new mission back to Saturn, or if we're going to add new instruments to say James Webb, what kind of instrument would reduce the uncertainty, would answer the question, would get us, and that feeds into the next round of instruments and missions and experiments as part of the decadal survey and all this, right? Like, that's got to be hopefully if they're working and they're collaborating, they are really, the scientists are in a room and they're going, you think this, we think that. How could we agree on what it really is? What would it take?
And this is one of the things that we're starting to see happen, where you get a pair of scientists who are on opposite sides of a what is the answer debate, who say, okay, we're going in together to propose for telescope time on this spacecraft, and this is going to decide the answer.
Yeah.
And we need to make the sacrifices necessary, in some cases saying, well, we need to put all of our financial eggs in one basket and pay what it costs to launch JWST. We need to do all the things that are hard to try and figure out what the heck dark energy is, including admitting that right now we don't even know if it's an energy, a force, right, in our universe, out of our universe, leaking into our universe.
Yeah.
And the decadal surveys are actually really good at doing this kind of thing, because they start from, let's allow everyone in the community to submit their ideas. And then they have panels of experts that go through and codify what is in all of the proposals, that look for trends in the suggestions, that look for those creative new ideas that deserve a chance.
Yeah.
The hard part is often corralling the government to fund those things that we want to do.
Or for the actual experiment or the instrument or the mission to be developed on time and on budget. James Webb.
Yeah.
So, these all come together. But then you can look at many missions like TESS, which came together quickly, launched on time, on budget, and are working hard.
Yeah. And then there's the missions that refuse to stop working. And so it more or less balances out. But it all comes down to all of us just listening a little bit better.
Yeah.
Science is always done in collaboration. Papers aren't always published in collaboration, but science itself is always done in collaboration.
So do you think that the media does is it media's fault on this one? Because like I, as a member of the media, think about how we do this reporting, and we are following the lead from the press officers, and the press officers are trying to turn the latest research into something that will, be chum to us sharks. And I think that we, we're careful at Universe Today. We try to not kind of get overblown about which way this goes. And we enjoy you thought it was this, but now it's that. And try to sort of show not the controversy exactly, but just like the journey.
The nature of science.
Yeah, it is the nature of science and the uncertainties that are involved. I mean, I think that if there's, one thing that I've learned over the years that I've been doing this is to be more nuanced about how I present these kinds of scientific investigations and what we know and what does it mean to be certain about something.
I think a lot of the problem that we have in taking stories that should be, we think this, other people think this other thing, let's compare the evidence and admit we don't know the answer. I think the reason that those stories become new research now shows with certainty that this thing is true.
Yeah.
The way that we get between those 2 points comes down to a failure to allow uncertainty and null results. When we have an NSF grant, I have to, every single time after I get that grant for 5 years, when I'm seeking new funding, say, with the funding you gave me before, I proved these things definitively.
Right. Or as opposed to, I found nothing.
Right. That's not allowed.
That's not allowed. And yet to find nothing is what's expected.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you should find nothing more often than you find something.
And when we build our careers on how many papers can you publish showing amazing results, where a minimum number decides whether or not you're allowed to keep your job if you're a tenure track professor. You have to have results. When getting your next grant requires your current grant to have results, well, then you start saying the result is, and you try to add the given these constraints, we feel that. But then your press officer who really just wants to see how many news articles they can get, because that press officer's job, they're getting promotion, they're getting kept based on how many news stories come out of those press releases. So now our press officers are basically being judged by how well they search engine optimize their press releases and how many news releases come out of it. And so now everyone, it's turtles all the way down, and everyone is getting judged by saying definitively something that catches the eyes of the next person down that totem pole.
So are Saturn's rings young or old?
We don't know, and that's amazing.
And that's fun. Thanks, Pamela. Do you have any people to thank this week?
I do. As a reminder, we are brought to you by you. This show allows us to pay Susie, who does our audio editing, who maintains our website, who herds cats, because Fraser and I are totally cats.
Yeah.
So thank you. And if you want to see more things happening around here and you aren't already contributing, go contribute. Just $1 will let us bring you new cool stuff and will help us pay Susie. Let us pay Susie better. Okay. Anyways, the people we want to thank this week are Jason Smensky, Andrew Stevenson, Benjamin Davies, Dustin A. Roof, Jay Wilkinson, Chad Colopy, William Layer, Omar Del Riviera, Jay, Alex Anderson, Jeremy Kerwin, Mark Stephen Raznacki, Brandon Wolverton, Brent Kernop, Jack, William Andrews, Joshua Pearson, Neuter Dude, Brian Kilby, Arthur Latzhall, Claudia Mastrolani, Frederick Schlag, and Jessica Feltz.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Pamela. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Bye-bye. You guys stay.
Yeah, everybody stay, because we're going to have a fun one today. Project, what did I say it was? 539.
And Susie, my audio is going in Dropbox because that's where it wants to save right now.
That's fine. I'll do that too. Now that we've cleared up Dropbox, I'm not going to pay for another
I get
membership.
it. I get it.
All right. Save it as a wave. I will wave save it. All right.
Thank you, people of Twitch, for all your support. Thank you so much. Wayne, I'm looking at you right now.
Hi, Twitch. I can see you now. This is so cool. Also, hard on my brain. All right, Pamela. So we're going to have what I hope is going to be a very definitive on this, both on Climate March Day, but on the day Climate Strike Day, where people are looking to go to Area 51 and see them aliens.
Get shot, get radiation poisoning.
Yeah. Motorhead 1 asks, what do we think about the new information that's coming out from the government about the UFOs that they had been seeing, and that they probably shouldn't have released the video? Have you seen this?
I have. So I've only seen stills. I haven't looked at the actual videos. But I have great faith in human beings to build weird shit that then pilots see that they aren't aware exists.
Yep.
And classified stuff happens.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite things to learn in graduate school was there is a whole path across the United States along which giant triangular UFOs had been reported for years. And it turned out that they were just giant triangular dirigibles.
Right.
That we're moving heavy cargo at night. So we use all sorts of things to explore our world, to explore our neighbors more closely than they may like.
Yep.
Our neighbors use things to explore us. With modern drone technology, things come in every shape, size, and
Yeah.
zippiness. Yeah, there's going to be lots of unidentified stuff out there, and it's going to get seen and it's
Yeah.
going to get
And
videoed.
eventually identified.
Yeah.
Yeah, so people always ask me, right, like, what do you think about UFOs? You know, are they aliens? And I'm like, by definition, we don't know. They are unidentified. The term has it baked right in. If you say they're aliens, then you have identified them. So, so are UFOs aliens? Absolutely not. They are unidentified. They are unidentified. They're flying and they're objects. So that's all you get. There is a great video on YouTube, and I apologize, I don't have it handy. I hope someone can post it into the chat. Where this thing that people saw was this weird object flying around in the, you know, their fighter jet heads up display, and somebody showed that you can get essentially like a lens flare from an infrared camera produces exactly
Oh,
that
wow.
kind of effect, moving in exactly that kind of way,
That's awesome.
right? And so you're like, oh, so there you go, right? It got identified as a lens flare from a infrared camera, which is absolutely on a fighter jet. So it just shows this whole process of just the when people jump to the conclusion that it's aliens, that's not how science works.
No.
You have to identify something as aliens. You can't unidentify your way to aliens. You have to identify your way to aliens. And the way you do that is you provide compelling evidence that this thing is a thing. And just because you don't know how this thing works doesn't make it aliens. That just makes it more unidentified.
And if you want to like use the definition of life form in the United States without proper visa, sure, I'll give you aliens. That just means they're like Chinese or Russian or whomever
Right.
flying over our country, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's perfectly, it's absolutely possible to provide evidence that these things are aliens. You have one of the spacecraft land and you take some videos really close to them. You go inside, you perform DNA samples on the aliens. You oh, there you go. Yeah. So someone was mentioning, right. So it was an infrared flare from the engine of another jet that was in formation with the aircraft. And so you get this weird reflection coming off, and it perfectly matches. Like I said, so people have matched it absolutely perfectly in various simulations. So it kind of identifies that one thing. So anyway, and it's like until somebody can present the evidence that is compelling, then it has to remain unidentified. And it just comes down to what is the method that you use to be convinced that something is real? What is the evidence that you require to be compelling? And if you are not convinced by the evidence, then you have to say that it remains unidentified. It is a mystery. Let's find out. I can't wait, right? Chase it down. Make it land. Let's talk to them. Until then, you don't know. And and Motorhead, you're saying hundreds of U.S. Air Force pilots witnessed. That's great. That's great. You would expect that people who are flying around a lot would be seeing a lot of things that they can't identify,
Yeah.
that have not been identified yet. But an unidentified thing is not evidence of a thing. I feel like this is my new quote. You can't unidentify your way to knowledge. You can't.
I like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's backwards, right? You identify your way to knowing things.
Yeah.
So, I think it's, and Motorhead 1 is saying nothing can fly in that speed in the air. We don't know what could fly at that speed in the air. We don't know.
Right.
Right.
And
Something
there's
could.
also all sorts of optical
Sure.
illusions.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there have been plenty of things that have turned out to not be aliens. It always turns out to not be aliens. So, just anyone who tells you, like, anyone who is telling you that they know what it is, they don't know what it is. So they just have to say, so they can't infer that it's aliens. They need data. Yeah. They have to say, we don't know. It's a mystery. Look at this crazy mystery. We don't know what this is. Isn't this cool? Because like that's science, and scientists are doing that nonstop. We don't know what this is. Like how old are Saturn's rings? We don't know. What's dark energy? We don't know. What's dark matter? We don't know. Let's find out. Gather
Can we
more
just
data.
Please stop naming things badly?
Yeah.
All I ask.
There you go. Dark spacecraft. So, yeah, so that's my answer, right? Is like, if you think it's aliens, prove it. That's it.
Someone really needs to tweet out the you can't unidentify your way into knowledge.
I guess so. Is that my Discord or your Discord?
That was my Discord.
Okay,
sorry about
all right.
that.
No, it's fine. I unsubscribed from every single Discord channel except one.
Hopefully your own.
My own, yeah. Well, I need to understand Discord better, so I need to use it. So
you need mods.
Yeah. I have some mods.
Good. Okay.
Yeah. So Motorhead, right angle, 90-degree turns at Mach 6. Maybe, but like, okay, so you're posting, right? These are the claims that are made.
Yeah. So to go back to some of these high-speed turns, one of my favorite things that came out of this UFOs turned out to be dirigibles was a low-speed dark aircraft, or in this case, Zeppelins, that have lights on them. When they turn at a perfectly reasonable rate at a low altitude, if you think they're at a high altitude, your brain perceives them as making amazingly impossible formation movements at high altitudes. And so that simple missing piece of information of whether something is at low altitude or high altitude causes your brain to make inferences. There has been a number of cases of people attributing amazing high altitude maneuvers to what turned out to be a flying Chinese lantern at low altitude that was caught in the wind.
Yeah.
You go outside at night and you see something zipping around. If you think it's something that's zipping around at 10,000 feet, 30,000 feet, and it's really only like 100 feet up, your brain is going to interpret those motions in extraordinarily different ways.
Yeah.
And without accurate distance knowledge, we can say nothing about the turns, the G-forces,
right.
any of that that's going on.
But if you were able to put a accelerometer onto the aircraft, then you would be able to track the actual turns that it was making. If you were able to follow it precisely, turn by turn, within a very short distance, then you would get a much better idea of how fast these things were moving. So it's like, until you can gather compelling evidence about what these things are doing in a way that's repeatable, that the wider scientific community, that anyone with access to the gear can do these kinds of measurements and analysis, it is not a compelling case for that it is even weird, right? So we're not even at this is weird. We're at someone saw a thing that they thought might be weird, but we're not at this is absolutely confirmed to be weird, right? Like dark matter and dark energy, they're at weirdness confirmed level. Where
if you want weirdness confirmed, there's a fire truck.
Yeah.
There was a mostly transparent sea cucumber pulled out of the ice in Antarctica. That is weird.
Yeah. Confirmed weird. Weird confirmed. Yeah. Yeah.
You can see someone holding it in their hands. Gordon.
Yeah.
Paranor, one of you share the link.
Yeah.
But a still image that could be lens flare.
Yeah. So step one, you have to confirm the weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then step two is you have to figure out what the weirdness is. And so with UFOs, they're not even at confirmed weirdness yet. They're at
I don't know what that
whatever
is.
stage comes before confirmed weirdness. So
Yeah, it's at that step of you hear noises coming from the roof from the space above you. Is it ghosts? Is it squirrels?
yeah,
Is it the wind blowing the shutters?
yeah,
Just hearing a noise in the attic does not mean you have ghosts.
yeah,
It just means you have a noise and you need to go figure out if it's coming from something super weird. Like our attic leaks birds. That is quantified weird.
yeah,
We don't know how the birds keep getting in. We just know we keep getting birds in the attic.
yeah.
Uh, documentable weird. I appreciate documentable weird. I'd love it if someone could explain the influx of birds to my attic. Um,
Yeah. And then, but yeah, and that just that whole process
yeah,
of going through that step of confirming the weirdness, right? And so, allow me to read the bit of an introduction from a certain podcast where we help you understand not only what we know, but how we know what we know. And so
right.
so even back to this, these press releases that are coming out from the U.S. military, right? Who you would assume
Yeah.
has, Motorhead is saying has the most accurate tracking on Earth. They're the ones claiming this, not me. Are they the ones claiming this, right? Are they claiming that we saw aliens? Or are they saying, here are some videos from some of our airplanes that saw weird things,
Yeah.
right?
And
And
and there's plenty of weird stuff out there. So
yeah, yeah, and
weather balloons, for
yeah,
crying out loud, there are weather balloons. There was just a race over Europe where human beings in balloons went to high altitudes to see how far they could go.
but now you're confirming weirdness when we haven't even
Okay, yeah,
confirmed
that
it,
is
right?
confirmed.
Yeah, you're
Yes.
confirmable weirdness. Well,
I
let's,
want more confirmed weirdness.
yeah,
More
yeah,
confirmed weirdness. I also want more Zeppelin's dirigibles and hot air balloons.
yeah,
They have a much better lack of impact on the environment. Can we have more of that? I
more,
want my steampunk
yeah,
future.
yeah, you do. It's not how your steampunk future won't work how you want it to. And steampunk, that's like coal fires. No way, man.
Okay, so let me rephrase that. I want the dirigible future.
Yeah,
I want highly efficient dirigibles doing shipping.
yeah. Um, and one thing that I think is really important with the search for aliens is that, like so many astronomers are absolutely fascinated and curious about the question. There is a whole field of astrobiology. There are
Mhm.
gigantic telescopes like the James Webb Space Telescope. One of its jobs is to search for aliens around other like a $10 billion spacecraft,
Yeah.
and one of its jobs is going to be to search for aliens. There is the Curiosity rover is currently crawling around on the surface of Mars, and its job is to search for evidence of past water for long periods of time, which can help build the case that there was once life on Mars. The
Yeah.
Cassini spacecraft at Enceladus is searching for aliens. Alien life was searching for evidence of the conditions for alien life on Enceladus. Like this is, are there aliens, is the most important question that a human being can ask. And so if we think we know the answer, we want to be sure.
It's true. It is true.
Yep. So, I, so Motorhead, I thought it was great. I thought it was uh, uh, I love seeing this conversation go on, and I want it to be true more than anyone. But I also am, we haven't even gone beyond, we haven't even reached confirmed weirdness yet in my mind. So we'll start there. Let's get to
Yeah.
confirmed weirdness, and then we'll get to finding out what it is, like whether the rings are young or old.
Right.
And
Slow steps.
what's that?
Slow steps.
Yeah,
Baby steps.
yeah, one step at a time. But it's good. I think it was a fun conversation. It definitely wasn't, it's a, Motorhead, we're not attacking you. It's a fun conversation to have. And I think that we watch Star Trek, we watch Star Wars, we love that space future, right? We want this to be real.
And as scientists, at a certain point, there's a difference between arguing we can't know that versus I hope that is true. I hope there is other life somewhere out in our solar system. I would love to find cephalopods in the seas of Enceladus or Europa,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I just don't know what we're going to find. I don't know how hard or easy it is for life to get its start. And as a scientist, I can't yet say there's life out there.
I would
And
love for there to be alien civilizations that send spacecraft to Earth.
I'm not there with you.
Really?
I'm
You
more
wouldn't love that? To
I
visit?
I I'm kind of worried about the mass freakout that might occur.
Oh, people will mildly freak out for a while and then they'll be fine. They'll get over it.
This is where I'm glad I live in a small town.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah. So that would be, I think that would be amazing, right? For us to be able to communicate with another civilization, as long as they don't want to destroy us.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it would be fantastic, and I wish we could. And that's why I find this topic so fascinating, and that's why I like every third video is about finding aliens.
You have so much more trust in humanity than I do.
Maybe so. Cool. Well, that was super fun. I love to have that argument. I love to think about it. So we'll get there.
And
We'll get there. We'll find them. We'll find you, aliens.
and debate is part of the scientific process.
Yeah.
And this is where we just need to learn to be able to say, I respect your opinion. It's different than mine. I totally respect the fact that Fraser would love to live an extraordinarily long life and looks forward to the possibility of encountering aliens with our present day civilization. We're very different on those two topics. And that's part of what makes it fun to be friends and fun to produce this show. We just all need to learn that sometimes differences, not always, but sometimes differences are worth celebrating, and differences of opinion should just be respected and enjoyed.
John Suffield is noting Remember Childhood's End, which I just love
Oh yeah,
as one of my favorite
yeah,
unintended consequences of aliens coming to share all of their knowledge with you.
yeah.
It's such a great book.
It's such a devastating book.
Yeah, yeah. John Anthony says, come to Pennsylvania or New York to do a lecture soon. Do you have any plans to be in Pennsylvania or New York?
I don't. I am always available to be asked. The things that are currently on my schedule is I will be in Tucson, Arizona for the International Observe the Moon Night, which once again is the first Saturday in October. I will be going to QCon in San Francisco in November. Uh, December, I am going to be going along with Susie and Annie down to the Space Coast. We are going to be attempting to see the launch of a Falcon 9 resupply ship. In January, I will be, if things go well, attending the American Astronomical Society meeting in Honolulu, Hawaii.
That's
So
awesome.
you can expect meetups associated with all of those events.
The next thing that I'm going to be probably doing is speaking at the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada next year. I've been turning down gigs in the US, so nothing
I
personal,
respect that.
but it's a little snarly to cross the border for work purposes. So
Yeah.
I am turning down gigs in the US. But if people around the world want to summon me, I'm happy to do some events out there in the world. But it's kind of a dicey time to try and cross the border and do work in the United States or do a talk or any of that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I sort of just am turning that stuff down now on sort of in general.
Yeah.
Sorry, filthy Canadian. Um, that's so cool that you're gonna watch a rocket launch. See that?
It is.
Yeah.
It was one of these things where I had a whole bunch of hotel points that were getting ready to expire. And my husband's not free to travel until after December 31st because he has a big work deadline. So I'm blowing them on the Space Coast. And Susie, Nancy, not Susie. Yes, Susie, Annie, not Nancy. Susie, Annie, and I are going to go, and we'll be live streaming everything we can.
Yeah. I think that it is wonderful to go to the Space Coast. It's so easy to watch a rocket launch. We've talked about this before. Like, it's just, that you just go and get like if you get to be a journalist, then you get to go in and actually see behind the scenes and go a little closer. But still, you rent a hotel in Cocoa Beach, sit on the on your deck with your Mai Tai, and you watch a rocket launch, and it's a perfect view directly to the place where the rockets are launching. So
and I have to admit, there will probably be a Playing Wizards Unite at Harry Potter World that occurs.
That place is amazing. I do recommend it. Cool. Well, I think we've reached the end of our hour. Thanks everyone for beep boop. Thanks everyone for hanging out with us today. Thanks to the moderators. Thanks to everyone who brought up all of the questions in the debate. That was super fun. Pamela, thanks as always. What's next in your list?
I'm thinking it makes sense to start looking at all these crazy problems that we thought we knew the answer to, that we did loud and happy episodes that we knew the answers to, and we now realize we are wrong, and just look at all the ways that we're wrong and admit to them fully and hope that maybe.
So this is the series you want to do, or we were wrong, or we didn't know as much as we thought we did?
Yeah.
Let's take a step back from confirmed back to weirdness confirmed.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So I'm thinking our next one is going to be looking at the ALMA data that we thought meant that we were finding planets forming around planets forming around stars. And now we're like, we don't know what's going on.
Oh, no. Yeah, that sounds great. I love it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Perfect. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Thanks, Pamela. And we'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye.